Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Egeria, Dr. Burke, and Shaniqua. So basically what I wanted to start was having a discussion in how we can get more committee members, board members to join this committee. We're at 317 completed surveys. We've been saying we do need more. So one thing is getting more board members to help us with the outreach. And then the second is continuing the outreach now that we're starting to go back to some in-person kind of status. Maybe we can start going to different organizations, community-based organizations. I have to connect with someone, maybe you may know, at the YMCA. I know he joined, the executive director joined our board meeting, I think like 2 board meetings ago.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could ask if he would, give the survey or distribute it to his constituents. But I guess the big thing is, one, the purpose of this committee.
Mm-hmm.
Surveys are still going to make sense
Right,
regardless,
right,
so, soliciting to get the surveys just to get more sense of what people are thinking
right,
is going to be helpful in either way that the committee goes.
right.
So if you did that until say about, say May,
Mm-hmm.
just to run another, put another effort in it.
One last time.
Yeah, yeah. And see what comes out in May.
Right,
And then, by June, I I mean, the thing is, as a nonprofit, as a not-for-profit, as establishing a not-for-profit, with this possibility of board term limits,
mm-hmm.
being shortened and all of that, board term limits just existing, I don't know how many people are going to be willing to carry a
Right,
non-for-profit.
right,
So if anything that we get out of, having met and having had the discussion, it is to find out more about what do people want. You
right.
know, I mean,
And the
and
continuation strategy.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Shaniqua, what do you think in terms of like continuing our outreach and how do we get more community board members involved? Any ideas?
Yeah, so I have a few thoughts. I think that so I've shared it out to my networks within the district. The problem that I've been having, which I think I mentioned before, is most of the groups that are civically engaged out here are the elderly population or um, the population that's 55 and over, and so they're not always adept to taking surveys online. So that's been I guess, a challenge of mine. But I think in terms of distributing it, I think the local elected officials will probably be the best pushers, like Councilmember Riley, having him send it out in his newsletter,
Right,
asking Carl Hasey and Bowman um, and Bailey to send it out. I think in their newsletters, I think we'd get a lot more responses because they have such a vast distribution list that they're
right.
able to reach way more people than we can, and just through one email.
Mm-hmm. I will circle back with them. I have spoken to each and every one of them, and they all have said that they are willing to help us distribute, but then in action, in theory and practice. In theory, they're like, yes, in practice, it hasn't happened, but I'll reach out to them again. But I am looking outside of those entities, ways that we can connect with the community. Hi, Clinton. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Clinton, so we're talking about still the distribution of these surveys that we're only at 317, which is what we were at when we ended uh last summer. And so we still need to continue to push to get these out there and completed. So we're just trying to think of ways of how to do that.
I know I heard your theory and practice, and I understand that when they say one thing and do another, but I mean, hopefully, like Shaniqua said, we can be able to distribute it through their vast list because they
Right.
have a vast list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea, but I know you've spoken to them before about it, but you know,
I have, and I'll
and
continue to.
right,
Another,
I'm gonna leave it
sorry,
alone. I'm not gonna say
continue.
no more about it.
I
I
think another idea, Beatrice, is the churches. So they're more likely, like pastors are more likely to have a lot more influence over their congregation. So like some of the larger churches in our district,
hmm
perhaps connecting with them and asking them to share it out. Or if there are board members that are active in their churches, perhaps we can ensure they have copies to give out like on a Sunday, and have a few members or members of their church who's willing to fill it out. I think that's another great way where it's not online, but perhaps people that are willing to sit down at the table in their church either before, after, and complete it, and they can then scan it or find a way for us to get it back to put it into the
Right.
system.
Well, we have that barcode. We have the flyer with the barcode that they can just scan and complete it that
Right.
way. Do
Yeah,
you
that's
think
amazing.
do you think you could help us with that, Shaniqua, with getting churches involved?
Yeah. I'm connected with a lot of churches in a district. Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking of a few. One on Seymour, one on Boston, one on White Plains Road. Yep, absolutely. I can reach out to some of the pastors
Okay.
um, and ask them to distribute it to their congregation.
Thank
And then I'll see if I can stop by a few of them. So it's just that sometimes I visit some of the churches in a district um, just to say hello to the congregation. So perhaps that might be an opportunity for me to bring it. I would need to bring hard copies too, in case people are
we
not.
can get that to you. We can
Yeah,
print them at the
that's
office.
perfect. Yeah, that works. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you do that, that'll help. I'll reach out to the elected officials again. And if possible, maybe I can, Dr. Burke, if it's possible at the next general board meeting for this month, is there any way I can get a few minutes to talk about this?
Actually, that's not an issue at all. So let me, I've been hearing what everybody's been saying. So if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I'd like to comment.
Sure.
So, a couple of things. So as far as the distribution, I know that, you, myself, and the first vice went out
Mm-hmm.
twice during the summer at the same events that we talked about with said elected officials. So I'm not going to say anything else about that. Um, I will say that we had board members, as you know, that claimed that they didn't even know that we were doing the survey, despite the fact that Clinton made a big push about it at the April general board meeting. Yet and still, some of the same board members, and I have to be careful what I'm about to say here, some of the same board members that, how should I say it, are loquacious in their comments are yet and still have not done anything to assist. And I know that you reached out personally to ask. As far as I told you before, based on my experience, not only with when you and I and the jury went out, but also, I went to the 47th meeting in September, and again, where Alfredo, was helping me as well as the National Night Out. And I know that, I was, pushing them there as well. And of course, all the hard copies, I had to enter. I know
Right.
you offered to help, but I'd already had it, and so I entered all of those, manually. And that's how we got the number that we've gotten there.
Right.
So as far as the strategy, as far as I will say this: not that the electors don't have a vast list, but seeing is believing, and so I'll again leave that there. As you know, we're doing our own newsletter, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get to speak about it last month because I know that both Sydney and Keisha were absolutely prepared to talk about the newsletter and the outreach that those two wonderful women have put together. And
Right.
I think that the survey would be absolutely advantageous to put in their newsletter. So I would reach out to, I think, between Keisha and Sydney, I'm trying to remember which one's taking the lead on it, but
I did talk to Keisha about that, Dr. Burke, and there she was with it, with putting it
yeah,
on the newsletter.
yeah. I would definitely, make that happen. I think the last thing, as far as your committee members, right now, you're only short. I think Kevin Eichelberg is the only one that's not here. With the newer members, this year's group, how should I say it? They're not as active as your group is. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I'll leave it there.
Okay.
You
How many
saw
are
the
we at
comment.
now? Yeah.
Yeah, you
Dr.
saw the
Burke, how
comment
many
that
are
I
we at now?
said to them.
Yeah.
And again, I'll leave that there. So I think as far as outreach strategies, again, it's nothing like putting things in people's hand, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, because I think that's the best way. My daddy would always say, God rest his soul, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Right.
So, that would be how I would approach it. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that works. So what I'm gonna do one of these days, well, I'm gonna, aside from reaching out to the elected officials, Dr. Burke, is stop by the office and maybe make copies that I can maybe give Shaniqua some, I'll hold some, and you know, we'll figure out how to give them the hard copies and scan. People can scan maybe with the flyers. We can print some flyers. So maybe we'll start with that, with printing out some of the flyers that have the barcodes that people could just scan, and then some hard copies for the elders.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Based on my experience, the hard copies is going to be your best bet because
Okay.
again, that's where most of the data came in. If I look at what we scanned in versus the hard copies, I mean, it's almost like 90-10, truth be
Okay.
told.
Okay.
So, and again, Ursula has, like I said, they did it when we went out to the National Night Out back in
Right.
August. They made 100 copies for us. And, that's when, and again, and that's when Alfredo helped, push those at that, as well as at the precinct council meeting that we did back in September when, Toba's group was meeting in person.
Right.
I know that I have put the link in when I've attended either 222nd Street meetings and or the Wakefield Taxpayers Association's meeting. I know that I went out to them and, I put the link in their chat, and I know some of them also filled up. Plus, I also reached out to the women of Woodlawn. And I think what we have not done, and that's why I try to, to be a chair that's encompassing and reaching the entire neighborhood, is
Right.
because they felt that they said, Dr. Burke, we feel neglected, and I'm like, and that's why I'm here. And
Right.
so those women, in a matter of a couple of short hours, we got more done than, I mean, they were very, 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 very attentive. They were very astute to the issues. They knew the issues. They
Mhm.
knew what questions to ask, who to go to, when to ask, and several of them have contacted me since. Although I can't attend their meetings based on, their meetings normally conflict with something that we've got going on, I've
Right.
still maintained a dialogue with them. So I think, there are pockets of woodlawn in this neighborhood that we have not, um, I think we've concentrated on our side, and
Hmm.
we've left off, the Denowitz side and the Senator Biaggi side, because, and again, in my experience, there's a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of activity on that side that, quite frankly, we haven't tapped into.
Right.
I did not have any surveys to give them at that particular time,
They have
but,
it
I
though. I've
did forward
connected
it.
with them and they do have it.
Oh, they
I've
do?
sat
Okay.
in their,
Okay.
yeah, I've sat in their meetings, and they're always more than willing to help. So they've
Yes.
actually have posted it for us, the flyer they posted for us. But I'll reconnect with them as well.
Right. I mean, because I have seen some activity from, the women of Woodlawn, and in
Yeah.
particular, also the Woodlawn, again, because I can't, what's his name never got back to me, from the Woodlawn Taxpayers Association. I forget the guy's name. I see his face, but don't remember his name. But, reach out to them too. I think that they would, be more than happy to help,
Right.
push, what we're trying to do. As
Sounds
far
good,
as
Dr.
some other thing you said that caught my attention, I think that, the survey has given us a glimpse into what the residents want. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that, even though it may not be the numbers that, we were looking for, I would say that there's still, in my, being that I mine data for a living, there's been more than enough data to me to mine in order to, do some of the things that, we've discussed a while
Right.
back. I think that's in my reason, one of the reasons why I voted the way I did at the last general board meeting for the projects. So, and again, I'm not going to rehash, what happened there. I'm just saying that's why, because, people had already told us what they wanted, and
Right.
so I think that, the surveys have given, yes, I know, I mean, obviously you want more, but sometimes you could do more with less. I think, and Clinton and I being that we're HBCU grads, I know that, we've been taught, our faculty have been doing more with less. And thus, you have that. So I think that I would not be discouraged. I would say, let's move forward with the information that you've got and let's
Okay.
make some things happen.
That sounds good. So we'll do that. We'll move with what we have, hope to get more. And then I'll keep everybody posted. I still want to make copies, so I'll make a time to go into the office and make some hard copies for Shaniqua and for myself. That's all I have. Any questions?
No, I wanted to just sort of echo Dr. Bird's sentiment. It's definitely, although it's not the pool that we want, I definitely think it's a useful data that we can definitely use to look at some trends and what the what people are saying in terms of their priorities and their needs, and essentially analyze and synthesize that. And even if we produce a preliminary report, at least something to go off of based on those responses. I'm also thinking that needs may have evolved essentially over the last year, especially like with the new variants and other you just new things that are going on, that needs may have evolved over the last year. And maybe that's something worth mentioning in the when we're doing the synopsis, um, is to mention that when the survey was taken, it was taken over such a long period of time that it may not reflect the needs presently, but it reflected the needs back then when they took that survey. Not sure if that even matters, but it's just worth mentioning.
Right. There's spaces too where they can put other needs too, if other needs have come up. But that's a good point. Thank you, Shaniqua.
Of course.
All right. Thank you all for joining. We'll be in contact. Thank you for your time. Have a
Thank you,
great
everyone. Have a
evening.
good evening. Be safe.
Bye.
So long.